Serious and Salinas has the IFBB ladies tonight, and we're going to be talking about women's bodybuilding and what has been happening in the world of women's bodybuilding. But before we get started, I just want to show everybody my new Blood Iron barbell sweatshirt from Rheta West Gym, Syracuse, New York. So if you're in Syracuse, make sure you visit Blood Iron Barbell. It's a real hardcore gym. So Rheta, this is the fourth time you've been on my show. So everybody knows who Rheta West is. And this is the second time for Sheen Ohlig and Donna Salib. And we might have Leah Denny. She might jump in later if she has time. If not, I'm going to have her on later. So before we get started, what did you guys think of Sean Clarita? I mean, I did not think he was going to win that. And I was like, whoa. I mean, that was amazing. It was almost like he almost left the Olympia and was like, oh yeah, you beat me? Yeah, yep. Watch this. Did you see it, Sheena?
I watched it. I was tuned in. The top three in that show actually are like a couple of my favorite bodybuilders. Sean Clarita, number one, because he's from New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So he's a Jersey guy. And then Regan Grimes, just because, I've been watching and keeping up with his YouTube for years. Mm-hmm. And, Sergio Oliva Jr. I mean, he could have my babies. So, I just those are my favorite guys. I was, surprised and disappointed in a couple of the other guys that failed to make the first call out, which was, crazy. But I watched it. I wasn't going to miss that. It was actually a 3-day event. They had the Masters, I think on Friday, mm-hmm. and then Saturday was the NPC, and then Sunday was the Open, the Pro Open.
Donna, did you watch it? Did you see it?
Bits and pieces.
How did it? I mean, when they had Sean in the middle, I mean, he's 5'2", mm-hmm. and Sergio is a foot taller than him. Easily. Yeah, Sergio's about 6.
What I liked about it was that they had the camera angle from the judge's perspective.
That's right.
And I felt like when they had the camera at that angle, it actually sort of leveled the playing field, because you couldn't necessarily see such the height disparities versus when they had it square on. Because when they had it square on, you could tell easily he's just a little man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But from the judge's perspective, it was so great, because you literally saw just how muscular he was and just how packed onto his frame all that muscle was. It was crazy to see.
What was the most impressive thing about him, about Sean, for you, Donna?
Conditioning.
Okay. And what about you, Rheta?
I don't know. I only caught the aftermath of it on social media and stuff. So
his shape, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say I was also surprised that he came back, because they were, I know it was kind of close, but they were pretty sure that the other guy was going to take it.
Mm. Yeah, his shape. I mean, he's really like a 212 flex wheeler. I mean, I think he's got a 25-inch waist or something. It's insane. It's amazing V-tape.
His proportions are just crazy. I think his
So what'd you say, Donna? I'm sorry.
Say that again.
I said I'm just partial because I'm 5'2".
Oh, there you go. What were you gonna say, Sheena?
I was just gonna say his proportions are outrageous, and then just the way that his muscle sits on his body, he literally looks like a cartoon character. How full his muscle bellies were. Whatever formula they've come up with to bring him in for shows, to peak him for shows, it's definitely working. I feel like he brought his 2020 package to that Open class. His 2021 Olympia, for whatever reason they said he was off and they gave it to Derek. I'm partial to Sean. I feel like Derek didn't do enough to really take it from Sean. But I feel like he didn't necessarily bring his 2020 Olympia package. And so he just left the door open just that much. But I feel like he brought that 2020 Olympia package back to this stage at the Legion that it was just undeniable. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have my opinions on it. I mean, but I can't argue that I'm angry that he won, but I have a separate opinion on the crossover in general. So I guess we could get to that.
Rheta, did you see any of it? Did you see how good Sean looked, or even Regan Grimes looked amazing?
Yes, I was watching. I was keeping up with what people were posting. RX Muscle, and then I saw some of the posts from Olympia LLC there.
Yeah, I think Regan made the smart move and went with Milos as his trainer, and really made a big difference. Which blows me away that Max Charles does not have Milos as his trainer anymore, because then he fell back. I mean, I don't even know if he broke the top 10 when he was breaking the top 3 in major shows. I don't know why. Maybe it was, who knows why. There's always something goes on behind the scenes. But
Sure.
all right, so let's go to the first question. Women's bodybuilding. We just had the Olympia. Andrea Shaw wins again. Is she that dominant? Is she Iris Kyle dominant? Rheta, we'll start with you. What do you think?
I mean, she seems so right now. She looked great. I mean, I have not been in bodybuilding for very long, so I'm not super familiar with. I mean, I've seen pictures of Iris Kyle, but I've never seen her compete. So things like that. But so just without having all that to compare to, she did look amazing, and I mean, it was so close with her and Hella. But Hella, I've never seen her look better than she did on that show. But yeah, Iris Kyle is, from what I have seen before. Yes, I think she looks Iris Kyle level.
Okay, yeah. So you don't think anybody is going to be able to dethrone her anytime soon?
I think Hella was very close.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that, no.
Okay. What about you, Donna? What do you think? You think she's that dominant, or you think somebody could dethrone her?
I think anything is possible.
Right.
Put that out there. Anything is possible. Somebody can have a bad day. You never know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, she is the perfect package. Like she has everything. And I'm not trying to take away from anybody or anything, but I think she's going to hold the throne for a little bit.
So now Sheena, I apologize. Say it again, Donna?
Just my opinion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, of course.
I think it's going to be a little bit.
So Sheena had an up close and personal look because she was in the Olympia. And how did you do? I don't even know how you did. I apologize.
I finished 12th.
Okay, that's pretty damn good. 12th in the world is pretty damn good.
Sure. I definitely wanted to finish better. Obviously you go in wanting, to do your best, leave every stone unturned. And there's definitely room for improvements. I'm excited to make those improvements, but I can't complain. I'm definitely not complaining about 12th in the world. And I'm actually looking forward to next year, getting back up there and, welcoming the competition of some of the women that were left out of it this year, or that decided not to compete this year. And, there were some major names that decided not to compete or weren't able to get over here to compete. So hopefully next year, we'll have just that much more of the spectrum sort of filled out. So I'm excited about that.
So you had a up close and personal look at Andrea Shaw. What did you think?
I mean, the woman is phenomenal. It's like mind blowing to see her shape, her structure, her proportions. And I mean, I hate to use all those buzzwords, those bodybuilding buzzwords, but there's really nothing else that can sort of embody exactly what you're seeing. Like her muscle bellies are just round and full, and you see all the insertions, you see, all the separation. She just has a really great package from top to bottom, back to front. Her abs are in condition, her glutes are in condition, great skin. So it's like a lot of the, even the invaluable parts, like, or immeasurable parts that go into your package. Like, she has it, her presentation, how she puts her, her suit, the color of her suit, the jewelry together, her hair, her makeup, all of that. It's just, a really great package. But when you see her up close and personal, like, I feel like sometimes the pictures really don't do her justice because of how the muscle like presses against her skin. Like, her triceps are just like big hunk of, like, just hanging from her arms. It's just like crazy. So, I mean, it was really great. And she's just a beautiful person inside and out. Like, her energy is just great. So we're backstage and we're like, just hamming it up. We're dancing, we're joking, talking about the food we're going to eat. So it's good to have that kind of energy backstage on such a dominant competitor.
Well, from what I understand, there's a lot of camaraderie. I mean, I even is it you, Donna? Don't you bake cookies or cupcakes for every girl at the show that you do?
No,
It's
I don't
not.
go that. I don't go to that trouble. Let me tell you. No,
Or is it? Or is it you,
No.
Rita? Am I mistaken?
No, Donna. It is Donna, but she doesn't bake.
Oh, you
You
just buy it.
You bring them.
Don't worry about
Oh, okay.
I'm like the mama bear. I'm worried to death that I'm going to give somebody something that they're allergic to or they're intolerant to. So I just make little goodie bags. I put like different chocolates and candies or like hand lotions and lip balms or hand sanitizer or whatever. You know, I make like little goodie bags.
Yeah. There's a lot of I think there's a direct correlation to the women's classes and the camaraderie. I think the bodybuilding girls have the most camaraderie, and then it gets worse as it gets lower. All right.
Yeah,
So,
the other classes can be a little catty, I guess.
yeah, you think?
I mean, women's physique, when I was in physique, women's physique actually had really great camaraderie too. I know at one point, this was earlier, like way back earlier in the early days of physique, like 2013, 14, 15. We'd all do like a white elephant kind of thing and like bring like little gifts for each other. Like we would see the competitor list. And like bring a little gift or like bring snacks or something like that, and then like backstage we like trade, like give out our gifts to each other. It was really cute. And who was the baker freak? Her name is escaping me now, but there was one of the competitors, Tycee Cobbett. She bakes her butt off, and she would bring freaking like cakes and like cookies and junk. It was great. So it was cool. So I feel like these days currently, I mean, it's got to be the women's bodybuilders, because I think we realize how, what can I say, like, not that we're dispensable, but like they've been throwing us away for so many years, and so for the ones of us who have jumped up into women's bodybuilding and we're seeing that and experiencing that for the first time, we're like, oh no, this is not cool. So a lot of the girls have just like, we just come together and we're like helping each other backstage. It's cool.
That's good. That's good. That actually does help. And yeah, I think you happen to be right. Speaking of which, so to get onto a darker topic, but I think it's important, and I'm not gonna exempt myself. I'm guilty of this too. But there were two major bodybuilding deaths as far as guys go. So we had John Meadows and then we had George Peterson. And there was a tremendous amount of compassion, rightfully so, and a tremendous amount of social media coverage, rightfully so. I did it myself. The day that George Peterson passed, I called up Jason Owens and we did a special just on George Peterson that night. And so I am guilty of this too. But we also had two IFBB professional bodybuilding women that passed, Alina Hatvani and Jennifer Hernandez. And it is my opinion, and I want to know if your opinion as well. It is my opinion that they didn't get nearly the coverage nor the compassion that John or George Peterson did. So, Rheta, what do you think?
Well, I think that I know that I have never heard of those two women. I don't know. Are they maybe not as well known?
Oh, definitely not.
I mean, I think that part of it would be that everybody knew who the two guys were. Okay. They were, I believe, right? I know at least George Peterson was extremely well known. And who was the other one again?
John Meadows. Yeah, no, they were.
Yeah, right, yeah. So, and I mean, he's a legend. So that would probably be part of it. But I mean, I think it's very historical. I know it's the same way in powerlifting. Women don't get the same attention that the guys do.
Okay.
But that's in competition and prizes and things like that. I don't know. I mean, I would hate to believe that they would purposely kind of just like undermine the deaths of the women, just because they're, just because they're women. I think I would want to hope that it was more along the lines that they just weren't as well known. So it wasn't like, as widespread love for the athletes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What do you think, Donna?
It's probably a little bit of both. Number one, their names are out there a little bit more. The ladies, they weren't in the mainstream, as far as being broadcast by everybody, you know, and it's unfortunate because women's bodybuilding is alive and thriving, and the exposure should be the same, you know, but they'll eventually do that for us because we're not going away and we're not going to be quiet. Two, the guys do get more attention, you know, it's because it's business, you know, bodybuilding is a business, so it attracts more people. The old stigma of lifting is for men, you know, a lot of women still are blind to the fact that it's okay to lift weights and stuff. So I think it's just going to take time with the proper exposure with our sport, you know, people seeing that we're great people, you know, eventually to come around. But it's sad that it does feel that it was a little undermined, you know. It was we heard a little bit about it, and the people that you heard talking about it were the female bodybuilders, you know. So there were several that stepped up and said things about what was going on or what was speculated had happened and things like that with the prep and all of that stuff. You saw some of that stuff, but you didn't really see much more than that.
Okay. What about you, Sheena? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate every way around, namely to piggyback off of what you know, you ladies just said, like the exposure just isn't there. And it's not because we're not talented. It's not because, you know, we you know, we don't have the capabilities. It's just that unfortunately the industry is run by, you know, men, and, you know, the supplement companies, the clothing companies, the, you know, the equipment companies. These are all like companies that are run by men, and they have it of their opinion that, you know, women's bodybuilding, even women's physique or the more muscular women, are just not marketable. But you know, like Jake Wood says, you know, if you market it, they will come. You know, like you have to market the product, you have to market, you know, what you're selling and what you're trying to give exposure to, in order, you know, to really grow it. And unfortunately, the old or the antiquated idea envision that, you know, muscles are for men, or lifting is for men, or, you know, bodybuilding is for men. And, you know, if you are a female bodybuilder, you're not feminine, that kind of thing, like that's out of the window. But it's still very deep rooted in a lot of these companies, and they think, and I think they're afraid to take the risk to market women's bodybuilders. And with that being said, you're not going to get a whole lot of exposure because you're not getting the marketing behind, you know, the divisions and the competitions and the competitors. And unfortunately, it makes it seem that these women are not well known, when really behind the scenes they are. Jennifer is very well known amongst the circles, you know, all the different gyms. Like if you you know, on Instagram, you go to any of these gyms, you know, they posted tributes to her, but you're not getting the coverage, like the YouTube coverage or the moments of silence, or, you know, let's take a moment to honor this woman, or, you know, her you know, her legacy. And it's a shame because she did make an impact. I met Jen 2013, and we just hit it off, and she was just such a beautiful, like, spirit, like, you know, great smile, and always laughing, and like literally just broke the mold when it came to competing. At her age, like, it didn't even matter. She was just so talented. She was, you know, gorgeous inside and out. And it's a shame because, you know, I agree. It's just that we don't get a whole lot of coverage. We don't get a whole lot of promotion or marketing. And therefore it's like that vicious cycle, you know? So then it's like, oh, then they're not well known. And if you're not well known, then people aren't going to recognize you. If you're not recognized, then I'm not going to market you. But you got to break the cycle somewhere, you know?
You know what I was thinking too is that it seems funny because you would think that media would jump on that as far as like women goes, that they're more, you know, the media is going to jump on whatever is most sympathetic to the audience, you know, and you think that they would jump on that more than the guys. But then as I'm sitting here listening to you talk, Sheena, about like the supplement companies and whatever, and I think that maybe another part of it too might be that especially, you know, the closer as you go up, physique, bodybuilding, you know, as you go up, I think that they don't want to start touching upon what some women might be taking, because a lot of these deaths are being blamed for, you know, on supplements or diuretics or whatever. And I think that even though more women are being open about you know, what they might be taking or whatever, it's still not something that the general public wants to address.
But isn't that a shame? Because men
Yes.
have become way more open about what they're taking. I mean, you look at some of these other podcasts, you have the competitors and current competitors, like current top 10 competitors, top 10 Olympia competitors on these shows, and they're literally sitting there talking about what they're taking, like the gear that they're on throughout the year, the gear that they're taking into the show, what they're doing to peak, and they're still getting those, you know, supplement endorsements. They, you know, the company is still endorsing them. So it's really.
And I personally have kind of gone on this vendetta about trying to be more open about it myself, because there's so many women that keep their mouth, not keep their mouths closed, I mean it like that, but they're afraid to talk.
They're high, yeah.
But when you talk about the marketing part is what I'm talking about. So like, say a marketer's not going to want to even go there, because if a marketer says, yeah, we gave this guy something to raise his test, it's not that big a deal. But if a marketer says, yeah, we gave this, you know, this lady something to raise her test, then it's like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, because they think it's taboo for a woman to have testosterone therapy.
Right.
Even though we need testosterone. It's the education part of it.
Yes.
People would educate themselves, and that's something I think that we as female bodybuilders need to start promoting ourselves.
Yes.
You know, I've been doing a whole lot of posts about self-care. And it's more touch base on things that I do to take care of myself, whether it be mental, you know, keeping mental clarity, being more true to myself, things like that. But I think as female bodybuilders, in order for us to make it not as taboo, you know, if I'm doing some type of therapy, whether it be this A, B, C, or D, explain the benefits of that therapy, that this isn't something that I am abusing. You know, it's like when I would say something about, like, my mom, for example, has really bad osteo. My dad flipped out when I had even mentioned the idea of bringing her weights to lift. I'm going to break her, right? That was his mentality on it, because osteoporosis is brittle bones, right? So I had to sit and I had to explain to him, it's actually beneficial for her. It's going to help her regenerate bone growth. Once I sat down and educated my dad on what I was trying to do, not harm her, but what I was going to do is helping her. So as female bodybuilders, I feel like that's what we need to do, whether it be whatever therapy it is. If I'm doing red light therapy for my skin, I'm going to explain to them, this is what I'm doing. So it's going to be up to us to put out there, even if it's small tidbits of something, of whatever it is. I take bromelain or, you know, an anti-inflammatory. Explain those things in little tidbit posts and stuff, or YouTubes or whatever, just so the female population can see we're normal. We take supplements that are normal. Just because you see me taking creatine doesn't mean that I'm gonna, you know, whatever.
Right.
Well, to Rheta's credit, you have a YouTube channel, and you do talk about side effects of certain supplements and the pros and cons of women taking certain supplements and so on and so forth.
Because I try to take it that step further, you know, not because as far as educating women is, you know, I'll be the first one to admit I've not always been the safest or the smartest, but, you know, did what I thought at the time. And, you know, now years down the road, I can say, well, you know, don't do this. I can tell you from experience, because here's what I've done. I'll be honest with you, what I've done. And then explain, you know, where the benefits come from, you know, handling it a little bit smarter, a little bit less, whatever, starting in a different place, you know, things like that.
Okay.
But then, like Donna said too, it's not like steroids are the only thing that people do, you know. Talk about all the other stuff too, like the therapies, like Donna was talking, the therapies and the just regular over-the-counter supplements and
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
full package education.
I want to talk about all of these issues with people and stuff, and I mean, people tearing themselves up doing stuff that no. We can get into a long talk about that. They're doing some stuff that, you know.
The worst I've ever heard.
For it to be taboo for us, I mean, how much damage is being done by people that take too much Advil? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It shouldn't be taboo for us to talk about regimens, you know, or, you know, feel like we're going to be you know, a target on our back because we are openly discussing things that need to be discussed, you know, because it may help her or him from doing something stupid, you know.
Sure.
It's educating the public. We got to educate the public.
Yeah. What do you think, Sheena? Do you think that is something that is necessary, or you kind of would rather keep it quiet?
No, I think it absolutely needs to be shared. I mean, I think it's become better. You know, you'll see on Instagram or YouTube, you know, people sharing a little bit more, women in particular sharing a little bit more, you know, making posts about it. But it always comes like as a caveat, like I'm being completely transparent and honest because I want to educate people. Like it can't ever just be just like in passing, you know, which it's become very what's the word, like candid for the guys to just be like, oh yeah, like, all right, this test, or oh yeah, this primo, or yeah, this you know, trend, or this, you know, they're throwing all these things out there. And believe it or not, the kids that are watching them, or the people that are watching them, they're hearing these words, they're not really understanding the stacks or how they're being managed. They don't understand that these compounds are being managed by somebody with like very deep knowledge. Like at this level, you know, they have an extensive background or knowledge or experience with it. And you know, the kids are out there just going and buying it off like black market or some junk. It's crazy. Versus, you know, women are becoming a little bit more open with it. And yeah, they're willing to take the risk with, you know, exposing what they've used or what they're planning on using, or, you know, the stacks that they've experienced, or, you know, what their coaches have put them through. And it's more to Donna's point, an educational thing, but I think it has to be even greater than that, maybe in time. You know, it's got to be more candid so that, you know, people understand that it's not just me. All right, I'm gonna become a bodybuilder. I'm just going to get on this stack and then I'm gonna just like be amazing. Like, people have been training and working out and, you know, going after these goals for 10 years, 20 years plus, and wouldn't, believe it or not, are taking way less than the average person might think that they're taking, you know, and like way less therapies than the average person might think that they're taking, because they have such an extensive history of training and stuff like that. So, you know, you have people like, Pender, Jamie Pender, like freaking love her. Ran into her a few times, you know, over the years, and she's so candid about it, and she's so educational about it, and she takes it very seriously, because people are out here hurting themselves. Women are connecting with coaches that are just telling them to take these random stacks, and they're just going off and doing it, and they're getting hurt. And unfortunately, you know, sometimes to the demise, you know, sometimes it's, you know, it's fatal, but it's got to be where we're talking about it, where it's like, listen, we're all adults, we're grown. I can take this, I can take that, I can do these things, as long as, you know, as if it's in a safe manner, but it's not there yet. But I think it needs to get there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. And there are a lot of people. I know Rheta does the YouTube, but there's also Gina Davis, who is Steve Kuklow's trainer. And from what I understand, she is a world of knowledge, you know, so it's out there, but you might be right. It might be difficult for people to just come out and say
it's difficult, just because, you know, like it's we're still breaking down the barriers, that taboo wall of, is bodybuilding even for men? So people are going to have more sympathy for a guy passing than they're going to have for a woman passing, because in the back of their heads, they're thinking, oh, she should have been doing it anyway, or this is what she gets, or this is eventually what was going to happen anyway. And it's like, that's not how it goes.
So I know we touched on endorsements a little bit, but I want to get a little bit more into it. Well, I'll start with you, Donna. I know Rheta brought up some good points, but the basic questions I wanted to know is it more difficult for women to get endorsements in bodybuilding, and as opposed to men? And if so, why? That was my basic question.
Down.
I'll let Donna talk. Okay.
I don't have to even answer that. Let me tell you, we got 2 hours to talk about this. No, we don't get. I mean, it's like anything else. Look at the prize money. That in itself. Don't even talk about endorsements from supplement companies, clothing, and things like that. Prize money at the shows. That shows you right there. I mean, I don't know. There's probably 10 off the top of my head of just supplement companies that I'm like, man, there's not a female on their team.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is it because they don't have female products? Nope. Is it because we don't know why it is? So it's hands down a big, we don't get what we deserve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's like that in any industry, unfortunately.
Okay.
I honestly feel like it's not just the fitness industry, but it's obvious we don't get what we're supposed to have. But I see, not making plugs or anything, but Jake is making a big deal about the women. He takes care of the women's, Miss Olympia, and the female bodybuilding world. So if people can't get on the same train, I don't know what they're going to be doing, because we're not going anywhere. We're here and we're only growing. And I don't mean that size wise. I mean, our numbers are growing.
Oh, it's exploding. There's no question about it. It's exploding.
So eventually, something's got to happen.
What do you think, Rheta? Do you think any particular, I know you touched on a couple of reasons before, but anything other than that?
Yeah, well, I mean, just like all of it, I think that everything is kind of slowly evolving right now, and it's just going to take a little bit of time, unfortunately. And Donna's right. With the numbers growing, it would be ridiculous of them to not jump on board at some point with starting to promote more women, because they're going to lose out on a larger audience that's growing right now. So, you would think, but I guess, what else I think? I think that when you look, I say regular people, and then like what I call my gym people, right? And those of us in like bodybuilding and powerlifting and stuff is a very small percent of the population.
Yeah.
In general, right? So if you want to talk about what's making money, they're still not going to look at what, our circle, finds sensible or whatever is gonna buy. We're the ones buying it maybe, but they're gonna target for that 98% rest of the population who's out spending all their money trying to get to something that they're never gonna put the work into getting anyway. So they're just gonna keep buying these supplements. And but I think it'll be slow, but I do think it'll happen over time, especially as women's bodybuilding keeps growing, and as more women are becoming more vocal and more open about what they want to do, and not just sitting back in the shadows, that shadow of what the man thinks that they should look like. So I think it'll happen. It's just it'll happen slow.